African music.
Yeah,
Courtesy of Mono Mukundu.
Afrocentric.
Afrocentric music. Now, you have produced many albums. You've got an album recently that features various artists from Africa, from the African countries and Zimbabwe, that promotes African unity. Right now, how can Africans contribute to the music or are contributing to the music in the world, Mono Mukundu?
First of all, if you follow our music history very well, you find that all forms of popular music in the world, be it rock and roll, jazz, blues, reggae, all the popular musics, forms of music in the world, have their roots in Africa. And just a short brief of world music history. When Africans left Africa during slavery, they were forced to abandon their languages, their culture, their names and everything. And the only thing that they were left with was their music. So when they go to the Americas, especially those in the American states, they started what were known as work songs, songs that they would sing as they worked in the fields as slaves. From the work songs, they developed into what was known as blues. Of course, there were some other forms of music in between work songs and blues. But when it came to blues, blues was the grandfather or grandmother, which way you ever want to take it, of rock music, of jazz music, of all other forms of music. So most people think rock music is just white music, but what really happened is white music came into rock music around the 1950s. Because what used to happen is when black Americans used to play in their clubs, they were segregated. In fact, they were segregated from entering white clubs. So the white people pangotanga kufamba goa rokunza kuma clubs yavana vatema kune music iri kufamba zvakaipa, so they started coming to black clubs and they loved the music. Now the white record companies and record executives just came up with an idea and they said, what if we find white people who can sing this form of music, since they love the music but they didn't music yacho. So in the end,
so the white people loved the music, but they did not like the people who were singing the music.
Yeah. So there was this record executive who was called Sam Phillips. He used to own a record company known as Sun Records. So he's the one who persuaded who was this guy Elvis Presley to record. So Elvis Presley's first records, they were songs done, cover versions done by
black people,
and then because he had all the support, all the financial support, all the moral support and everything, he became a mega star.
In other words, Mono, are you saying African music was stolen as well?
Exactly, especially concerning rock and roll. So was the very first people to play rock and roll was Chuck Berry, if you know Chuck Berry. And Little Richard and Muddy Waters. They were the first people to play rock music, and they were all African Americans.
Once again, listeners, if you're just listening, it's breakfast as we discuss and, of course, as we explore Africa's richness. It's Africa Day, May the 25th, and, of course, this is very important for the continent and for Zimbabwe as well. With me, of course, is African record producer, music producer, Mono Mukundu, who has worked with many African artists from the continent, and, of course, is bringing with him to this studio a vast knowledge of how African music has developed. Mono Mukundu, how can we Africans promote our own music?
That's a very good question, because I've also traveled extensively.
Why I'm asking this is because of our reliance on Western music.
Yeah, I've traveled extensively. I've gone to the United States of America about 4 times in the and I've noticed that in the Western countries, they play 99% of Western music.
So hold it there, Mono Mukundu. Are you telling me that in Europe, they rarely play African music on their radio stations.
They never. Not really, but they never play.
They never play.
They never play anything from Africa, no matter how good it is. And in the United States of America, it's the same thing. They never play, no matter how good you are. They never play anything from Africa. That's why, if you know Chaka Ngwenya, he was also part of Power FM. He went to the States. He started a he started a radio station called S.F.M, which promotes African music in the States. It only plays African music, so it's sort of catering for Africans in America. But what I'm saying is, in America, in Europe, they never play anything from Africa. So it's surprising when you come to Africa in most countries.
And we play their music on our radio
90% of their music, and so some stations they even give a special slot for African music when they are in Africa, which is very strange. Which is very strange. So I think the best way we Africans.
From the look of things, Mukundu, you have a bone to chew with radio presenters in Africa. You have a bone to chew with the radio presenters of African music on this continent. And you are saying we are not doing enough to promote our own music.
Yeah, I think our kids should know more of Salif Keita. They should know more of Oliver Mtukudzi. They should know more of Thomas Mapfumo than they know of Mariah Carey, or than they know of Ara Kelly and all those other Americans. Because the problem is we spend more time playing their music and not promoting African artists. So I think radio stations in Africa, they should promote more African music rather than...
How then are we going to do with the Africans in the diaspora who are now playing music closer to the white people, like you're saying?
Africans in the diaspora...
Why I'm saying this, Mukundu, is because of the African Union, of course, brings into it, of course, the Africans in the diaspora. How are we going to deal with that? Are we going to retrace our music again and then get it back and then give it back to the Africans in the diaspora to sing the way we want them to sing it?
Oh, you're talking about Africans that play foreign music.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed is for one to be internationally recognized, when you play any type of music that you play, there has to be a way of making an identity. I mean, I don't know how to put it, but there has to be a way of showing where you come from in your music. Because if you play it 100% as it is played outside, you won't make a breakthrough.
Just quickly, Mukundu, show us the power. Do we have the power of music? How the power of music is uniting or dividing the African people?
Music has got a very strong energy when it comes to uniting people or dividing people or passing information. That's why you find that here in Zimbabwe, before independence, reggae music was not played, music by African Americans was not played. Why? Because
this was deliberate from the regime at that time.
Yeah. And also music has got a very great effect. That's why you notice that during the 70s, that's why rock music was popular, that's why country music was popular. Because all those forms of music were the type of music that were being played by the radio stations.
Mukundu, they're talking to S.F.M radio, and live, of course, bringing with him a wealth of information, of course, in telling us, and that you had the warning there, that when you go to Europe, they never play African music on their radio stations. You say that?
Yeah, they never play.
And we are doing the very opposite of what they're doing.
Very opposite. We spend 90% of our time playing.
So there we are, Mukundu having a bone to chew with African radio presenters in that they are not doing enough to play black music on their radio stations.
Yeah.
And now, because of that, tell me something. What can be done then to improve the local music industry?
What we can do is our radio stations need to play more of our music. Because what happens is, apana nyika isina dofu, apana nyika isina shasha. So what happens is, of all the groups that are recording in Zimbabwe, there are a lot of brilliant, very brilliant artists. And some of them you never hear them on radio, because maybe time will be divided between local music and foreign music. So if we promote the good ones, you will be surprised what a wealth of artists we have in Zimbabwe. So I think what we need to do is to give more time to our music. Because of course we have 75%, but I think we can even make it more. Because we're in Zimbabwe, we're not in Europe, we're not in...
Mukundu, are you advocating for 90% on radio stations? Or 100%?
Even 99%. And then we just give a small slot for foreign music. Just a small slot. Maybe I can say 90% Zimbabwean, then the other 8% African, like music from around Africa, then the other 2% maybe for Western music. Because we're in Africa anyway. Because if somebody comes from the States and switches on his radio, he must feel that he's in Africa.
There we are, listeners. Africa Day special breakfast coming to you live from S.F.M radio station. I'm talking to Mukundu, and of course with the Pan-African producer he is. And of course, he's talking about he's got a bond to chew with radio presenters in Africa, that we're not doing enough to promote our own music. In other words, you are saying we are bringing ourselves down as far as music is concerned.
Yeah,
you have a song by that title.
Exactly.
Before we come back home right here, I'm going to play a track from Zambia, and this is from Mau Male. I believe she's younger sister to...
She's younger sister to Anna Mwale, and I also produced her album, so this is one track from her album.
So here she comes, produced by Mukundu, Zimbabwean, and of course with an Pan-African approach to our music. Here she comes singing which song?
She's singing Odi.
Odi, listen to this. Mukundu, a Zimbabwean music producer who is working with many African artists from the continent, of course, in developing African music that unite Africans. Now, you have a bond to chew with us, I know about Mukundu. And I think you're going to put us in trouble with our bosses on this radio, on this radio station, that you're advocating for 100% African music.
Exactly.
And of course, you're saying this on the very day, Africa Day. And you're saying we're not doing enough to that. Now, you have worked with Mau Male, who is younger sister to... You produced this song here.
Exactly, I produced the album.
The album.
Yeah.
And how is it to work with African artists from other countries?
I've realized that Zimbabwe is very much respected from other African countries, because right now a lot of artists are coming into Zimbabwe to record their music. Because right now I've worked with 3 Zambians, Mau Male, Jane Zangi, Chris Aka. I've also worked with guys from Mozambique, from Botswana. Right now, last week I started a project with a guy from Tanzania, Weli Pelo. So they respect Zimbabwe a lot, because the problem that's happening in Africa, most African countries, because of what I was complaining about, where radio stations play more Western music. Like in Zambia, most studios, they complain that any type of music that you bring, you want to record, whether it's African, one way or the other, they turn it into R&B or another form of music, because they're so much into rap music, so much into R&B. So almost all their producers turn your music into R&B or something else. So when these guys had project that I did with Q Montana, that was very Afrocentric. That's when they started flocking to Zimbabwe to record their music with me, because they loved the Afrocentric touch to the music. So the reason that in Zimbabwe, the fact that in Zimbabwe we also value our music very much, we gain respect because of that from other African countries.
Now, what is your advice then, Mukundu, to new artists, African artists?
To new artists, my advice is be very original. Sound like yourself. Don't try to sound like somebody. Because even recently in Zimbabwe, problems with a very big artist who was complaining that a lot of people are trying to copy his music. And I think I would be on his side, because listening to a lot of artists that play that genre of music, you notice that they are trying to sound like him. But for someone to make a breakthrough, you need to sound like yourself. Like I always say, everybody was born an original, but a lot of people die copies of somebody. Because, for example, God gave us Oliver Mtukudzi in Zimbabwe. We don't need another Oliver Mtukudzi. If you start your music career sounding like Oliver Mtukudzi, you are giving us something Shatina Chukdara. So give us something different, because at the same time you'll be suppressing what God gave you. So you are sort of depriving us of something different. So if you listen to yourself, listen to your talent, listen to what God gave you, you come up with something different. And to make a breakthrough is very easy to make a breakthrough when you sound like yourself, when you are yourself, when you are not trying to be somebody. Because if you try to be somebody, you become a cheaper copy of someone. So people would rather buy the original than buy a copy.
Before we go to the next question, Mona Mukundu, that's Mona Mukundu that I'm talking to live on S.F.M radio station. He's got a bond to chew with radio presenters in Africa in general, not Zimbabwe if you're listening. And he's advocating for 100% music content, African music, and that he's saying, I'm quoting you, Mona Mukundu, you just told me that if you go to the States, if you go to the Europe, they never play African music on their radio station.
They never play anything from anywhere. They just play their
no matter how good it is.
No matter how good it is.
But then you're making trips to Europe to do live performances. How are live performances viewed by the Europeans?
If you go to Europe, sounding original, sounding like yourself, you make it. You make it. Because next month I'm going to Europe with Chioniso. And as we all know, Chioniso is very original. She was born in the States, but she decided to sound very Zimbabwean, and the music is very original. She doesn't try to copy Stella Chiwashe or anybody. So she's making it big.
There we are. Mono Mukundu, the 27 minutes, the hour of 9 on S.F.M radio station to celebrate Africa Day. And this is Breakfast, of course, Africa. Now, here's a local artist that you have worked with. Her name is Chengetana.
Yeah, we only worked on a live project last time we came to Oliver Mtukudzi's birthday. But the album was recorded, was produced by Louis Mhlanga.
Of course, he's Zimbabwean best in South Africa. And we do have lots of Zimbabwean artists best in South Africa.
Exactly.
Right. Now, in view of the recent xenophobic attacks, and you've been in touch with our folks down south, our artists, Zimbabwean musicians down south. Any news from there as far as these recent developments are concerned?
I was speaking to a number of artists who are in South Africa. They tell me they are safe. I don't know how they managed to avoid the violence, but it's a very serious cause for concern, because I wonder how our neighbors can be so aggressive against one another. That's why even on that song I said, because find it's black against black, African against African. So it's a very sad situation. I never thought South Africans could be that xenophobic, because here in Zimbabwe we are very friendly to foreigners. Because if you hear someone is from Kenya, you want to understand their language, you want to learn about their culture and everything.
Why haven't we had xenophobic attacks in the country ourselves, from the look of things?
I think maybe it's the way we were brought up or something. Because generally Zimbabweans, we are very, very peaceful. We're a very peaceful nation. We love people, we love foreigners, we love everybody. But I don't know why it's so different in South Africa. I think in South Africa it's because they ignored the problem. Because every problem starts from somewhere. Because in South Africa, if you're a foreigner, if you go to South Africa, they call you names, Makwere Kwere and everything. I think it should have been stopped from there. The musicians, the country's leaders and everybody, they should have discouraged the problem. Because even in the parliament last week, some members of parliament were saying they were warned in time that such a thing can occur, and they ignored it. So I think the government in South Africa, the musicians, everybody who is influential, they didn't do enough, because you must stop something when it's grassroots level.
Yeah, and they didn't do that.
They didn't do that.
Okay, and these are the results now that are happening.
Yeah.
Right, Mukundu there, of course, African music producer in the country and working with many artists from the continent and, of course, the African continent, and he's the appropriate man, of course, to have come to this radio station. Unfortunately, he's blasted us for not playing 100% African music on radio stations.
Yeah.
And, well, I'm sure we will look into that. And, of course, the National Arts Council, where we normally take these complaints to, will also look into that. But let's go to the music of Chengetai. She's, you're aware that most of the people who were caught up in the xenophobic attacks down south were women and young ladies who are trying to fend for themselves. Right? And this is what she sings about in this particular song. Listen to this. Very original, very is this what you're looking for?
Exactly.
From African artists?
Yeah, sounding like themselves, not trying to copy someone. But this one, she's not trying to sound like Miriam Makeba, she's not trying to sound like Brenda Fassie, she's sounding like Chengetai.
But very African.
Very African.
20 minutes to the hour of 9 on S.F.M radio station. And of course, I'm talking live to Mukundu, who's African music producer, working with many artists from the continent. And of course, bringing that wealth of information and knowledge to this day, of course, Africa Day special breakfast on S.F.M radio station, where we learn, play, and discover our country, our people, and of course, our way of life. Now, what she sings about in that song, Mukundu, is about the situations that I was telling you that most of the people who were caught up in those attacks were women, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yes, and we don't know whether they were able to defend themselves.
Yeah, women, as the Bible says,
yes.
they're weaker, sex, not in terms of anything else, but they're supposed to get protection from us. But the situation in South Africa was very unfortunate because there's another incident where we heard that a pregnant woman's tummy was ripped open and the child came out and they killed the mother and the child just because they hate foreigners, which is very strange.
I think at this moment in time, let me say to the listeners there that we are saddened by the loss of lives in that mayhem taking place down south, and that we wish the authorities that bring that to an end.
Yeah.
What is the next track we're supposed to be playing here?
The next track is another album that I produced by a lady called Jane Zangi from Zambia, featuring
track number?
Track number 12, featuring Bethany Pasinawako. It's called Zikomo Yeso.
Let's take this call. Maybe it's got something to say. Hello, radio. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Patricia.
Patricia?
Yes.
Do you have something to contribute to this program?
I'm sorry. I want to make...
Okay. I'm sure that was a lost call. But anyway, back to our music. You have worked with Jane Zangi from Zambia. Powerful African woman, eh?
Very powerful, and I like the way she introduced herself when she came to my studio.
You have worked with her?
Yeah.
And she came to your studio?
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting.
Yeah. She said, my name is Jane Zangi, I'm from Zambia. I hope I haven't wasted my time to come all the way from Zambia.
Are we having... Mukundu, on that point, are we having many, from the look of things, from what you know, are we having many African music producers on the continent, in every country, like we have now with you here, which is very important? Because I believe the more we have that, then the more we are bound to promote African music on the continent.
Exactly. Like the Zambian artists were saying, in Zambia, they don't have those type of producers. Most producers in Zambia, they are now so much into R&B. So in Zimbabwe, maybe we have a number of producers that produce African music. So we are on a safe mode in Zimbabwe. But in Zambia and other African countries, especially north of Zimbabwe, they are losing on that one.
In other words, there's a fear of losing our music because of our reliance on R&B.
Exactly.
As African musicians?
Exactly. Because R&B, it's okay, it's African-American music, but we don't have to lose our identity 100%. Maybe once in a while if you play it here and there, but not to but I do teasers what you say like what's happening in Zambia. But there's still some artists who want to
who are original and who are very African.
Yeah, so they are the ones who are coming to Zimbabwe to record their music.
Tell us something about this track that we're about to play, Mukundu. Jane Zangi from Zambia.
Yeah, it's a gospel track called Zikomo featuring Bethany Mpasanawako.
Okay, they are working with Zimbabwean artists as well.
Yeah, and Q Montano on bass, and the music was mixed and mastered by Wanda Pinjis.
Okay,
all
excellent.
Zimbabwean crew.
Oh, there we are. Africa Day special breakfast coming to you live from S.F.M. And we discover, of course, and explore the richness of African music and culture. Listen to this. Her name is Jane Zangi from Zambia.
It's called Zikomo, yes.
Zikomo. Excellent stuff indeed. Now you are promoting African artists through and through. Are you then accommodating youngsters with the R&B and the new kind of beat? Are you accommodating them, or are you? Because
if we do something R&B or something reggae, we always find a way of putting a Zimbabwe footprint in the music to make it Zimbabwean, so that even if it's reggae, the Jamaicans hear it, they can tell this is not Jamaican reggae. Like the same way like it we used to do is reggae. Still is reggae, but it's not Jamaican, it's African. So I also produced an album by a group called Vinite, featuring a guy called Nelson Farrell and his friend. So I think we are also going to play a song from their album called Hand in Hand. It's to be released anytime this month. And the song is called Upenyu.
Upenyu. Yeah. There we are. I'm talking to Mukundu in case you're just joining us on S.F.M radio station on this Africa Day special breakfast. And Mukundu is calling for 100% African music on African radio stations. And of course, he's blasting me here and left, right, and center. I'm going to be in trouble with my bosses, but all the same, this is appropriate on a day like this, Africa Day, of course, where we learn, play, and discover our country, our people, and our way of life. Listen to this. There is no doubt that Mukundu is asking for 100% African music on African radio stations. I'm going to be in trouble. But that's appropriate, and how appropriate it is on Africa Day, of course. The music of Nelson Farrell, they're produced by Mukundu, African music on S.F.M radio station. Beautifully done there. Now, you are working with Farrell for this, Nelson.
Yeah.
Right, and you produce this kind of music.
Exactly.
And, well, I take it you have lots of African music that you have.
Yeah.
Right? That you're working with right now, you're working on right now.
Yeah.
And you're trying to say, this is why you've come in strongly with 100% African music on African radio stations.
Exactly.
Right. And what's the next track that we're going to play?
We're going to play a track from Cape Verde by
Verde.
artist called
Jovino.
Jovino.
Yes, yeah. And I believe he's talking about African unity. That's track number 18, is it?
It's trick number 1.
Okay,
yeah.
And Jovino is talking about African unity.
Yeah.
He's encouraging Africans in the diaspora to remember Africa. That's appropriate. 5 to 9 on S.F.M radio station. Listen to Jovino as he encourages Africans to remember Africa, especially those in the diaspora. Valuable input, of course, as far as Africa Day is concerned. Your last words before we head out?
Yeah, my last words, I'm still on that point of 100% African music on our radio stations and all around Africa.
Yes.
So that our kids grow up knowing more of our music than the music of Mariah Carey's and R. Kelly's and all other controversial artists.
And you're serious about that?
Yeah, very serious.
So there we are, listeners. Thank you very much for breakfast. It's been a great morning. And just remember one thing, I love you. Whatever you do, don't try to change the color of your skin.
Exactly.
Black is beautiful,
yeah.
And Africa is great.
Don't die a copy of
yes,
someone.
Thank you very much. And bye-bye for now. I'm Andrew Kiposa.